have said the secret word, and you qualify for a ride in my new convertible. Come on, sweet boy.
Something a little extra with Jessica, seductive. She makes a man feel like a man.
Jessica can register tremendous heat. She is a very passionate woman.
There is an air of mystery about her. She always has some kind of secret or something that keeps you wanting to get to know her more.
Her beauty catapulted her to fame, and her relationships with fascinating and talented men captured the public's imagination.
She's had Mikhail Baryshnikov and Sam Shepard. They are two of the great sexy males of the 20th century, so she got them both.
But Jessica Lange is much more than an object of desire. She is an award-winning actress who fought to win the respect of her peers, and an independent woman who chose to live life on her own terms.
She runs the show, doesn't let the show run her.
Jessica Phyllis Lange was born on April 20th, 1949, in the tiny lumber town of Cloquet, Minnesota. She was the third of Al and Dorothy Lange's 4 children. Her mother was a good-natured woman who took pride in her role as a Midwestern homemaker.
I describe her as a typical Minnesotan, somebody that holds the family together, always there, you know, to cook the meals, have the cookies when the kids come home from school.
Jessica's father was a restless, volatile man who dreamed of something greater than small-town life. He moved from job to job, working as a traveling salesman, a Ford dealer, and a gym teacher. The family was uprooted constantly, and Jessica yearned for the security of a permanent home.
I think her family background really bothered her. You know, you want to stay put. I mean, it scares you when you're a child. You don't like change.
Jessica was always the new kid at school, and her brother and sisters became her only playmates. The little girl became increasingly withdrawn as she and her siblings were forced to contend with their father's abrupt mood swings brought on by his heavy drinking.
Having an alcoholic father, you distance yourself from that. You look for ways to get away from it because alcoholic behavior is unpredictable. You never know what the person's going to be like. And Jessie did that.
8-year-old Jessie found an escape through drawing and reading. She loved romantic novels like Wuthering Heights and Gone with the Wind.
She would read the Margaret Mitchell novel again and again. Then she saw Gone with the Wind at a very young, very impressionable age, and it zonked her.
The quiet and reserved child admired spirited heroines like Scarlett O'Hara and would reenact her favorite scenes alone in her bedroom. Jessica was also an A student who devoted hours to her studies, trying to please her demanding father.
I think she adored him, I mean, loved him very deeply. But I think also was probably very fearful of him because he was a big, powerful, you know, presence. Her father pushed her just to be her best and to do something important.
In 1963, Jessica entered Detroit Lakes High School. Now a tall, striking blonde, she attracted plenty of attention, but chose to keep to herself, focusing on her grades and a growing interest in art.
She was shy, she was withdrawn. Most high school kids are just interested in flirtations and sporting events. She was already beyond that. Jessie would like to read, was well aware of world affairs, and socially concerned.
During her junior year, Jessica was convinced by one of her few close friends to try out for the school play. She won the lead in the melodrama Love Rides the Rails and was surprised by how confident she felt on stage.
Just came kicking and screaming into the play. She took to acting very, very fast. Even then, she had a flair for the dramatic.
But just as Jessica began to feel at home, her family moved back to Cloquet, and the 16-year-old transferred to the local high school. There she kept busy with extracurricular activities such as writing for the school paper and decorating the gym for dances. Jessica always hoped her accomplishments would impress her father, but she felt pressured by his expectations and longed to break free from the confines of small-town life, just as he had. In 1967, she won an art scholarship to the University of Minnesota. Although the college was only a few hours away, to Jessica, it was a doorway to the world. The freshman was excited to enter the heady atmosphere of a university, but she was even more impressed by a 26-year-old visiting Spanish photographer named Paco Grande. Jessica was fascinated by his extensive knowledge of art and culture, and soon they began a passionate affair.
Imagine if you're from Minnesota and you've been there most of your life and this glamorous Spaniard walks into your life, this handsome man from another country. I mean, that's pretty exotic. That would be pretty exciting.
After only a few months, 19-year-old Jessica dropped out of school to join Paco on a globe-trotting adventure. Her first stop was New York City and the infamous Chelsea Hotel, a rundown hangout for artists and writers. She and Paco then took off for Europe, where they lived with flamenco gypsies in Spain, drove a motorcycle to Amsterdam, and talked politics in the cafes of Paris. Surrounded by free-thinking bohemians, Jessica embraced her new and unconventional lifestyle.
I was working as a cameraman for French television, and I met her, and I was struck by what the French call le bien dans sa peau, the comfort that she has in her body, her naturalness. That was the most striking thing, you know, mixed with a kind of bohemian spirit.
Low on cash, but not ready to settle down, Jessica and Paco returned to the U.S. and embarked on a 2-year cross-country road trip. But in 1970, Paco was busted for marijuana possession, and his lawyer suggested that he and Jessica marry to help him appear more respectable in court. On July 29th, the couple wed in a small ceremony at her parents' home. They moved to the artists' enclave of Soho in Manhattan, where their loft became a gathering place for Paco's avant-garde friends. But after the life-changing exploits of the past 3 years, Jessica was hungry for something more.
He was the artist, and although she was assisting him and enjoying herself, there had to come a time when she said, I want to be the artist. She had too much talent and creativity and brains to not feel that way sooner or later.
Jessica went back to her painting and joined a modern dance troupe, but wasn't inspired by either pursuit. Then she saw Marcel Carné's film Children of Paradise, starring Jean-Louis Barrault as a brilliant mime. For Jessica, the expressive performance art was a revelation. She immediately made up her mind to move to France, where she could study with 76-year-old Etienne Decroux, the man who had trained Barrault and the world-famous Marcel Marceau. Even though she spoke no French and had only $300 to her name, 21-year-old Jessica packed her bags and went to Paris alone, leaving her relationship with Paco up in the air.
She was a nonconformist and a very free spirit. I mean, the very act of uprooting yourself and going to Paris is not your typical act.
Jessica trained intensely, worked as a street performer and artist model, and reveled in the freedom of life on her own. But after 2 years, she began to feel limited by the silent art form, and in 1973, Jessica returned home to the States. Back in New York, she was reunited with Paco, but quickly realized their relationship had run its course. The couple went their separate ways, though neither bothered to file for divorce. The 24-year-old moved into a tiny Greenwich Village apartment and waited tables at night to pay the rent. She also capitalized on her looks by signing on with the Wilhelmina modeling agency.
She reluctantly agreed to do it because I don't think she thought modeling was very creative. It was creative for the photographer, but not for the model. You just had to stand there and look gorgeous.
Jessica missed the excitement of performing and decided to give acting a try.
What attracted her initially to acting was the cathartic quality, because she had so much inside of her to get out. And you can only get out so much through mime.
She enrolled at the highly regarded Herbert Berghoff Studio, where she took classes from Warren Robertson.
From the beginning, Jessica was going to be an actress. I mean, she was attentive, she studied, she really applied herself. She had that focus.
In 1975, producer Dino De Laurentiis was looking for an unknown blonde to play the lead in his $25 million remake of the film classic King Kong. De Laurentiis was impressed with Lange's sensuality and powerful screen presence. He quickly offered her not just the part, but a 6-figure, 7-year contract as well. Jessica was overwhelmed. She was now making more money than anyone she had ever known and was whisked away to Hawaii to begin filming with co-star Jeff Bridges.
She was a beatnik. She had come from Europe, was involved with street theater there and mime and this sort of thing. I thought, wow, this girl is awful hip. How's she going to play this blonde bimbo?
At the age of 26, Jessica Lange had landed her first big movie role, but she was completely unprepared for the impact it would have on her life.
Dino De Laurentiis and Paramount Pictures present the most exciting original motion picture event of all time. King Kong.
In 1976, Dino De Laurentiis launched a massive PR campaign to promote King Kong, and the movie's star, Jessica Lange, was at the center of the media blitz.
You know, maybe my luck has changed.
With Jeff Bridges, Charles Grodin, and introducing Jessica Lange as the beauty who charmed the beast. King Kong.
She first hit the public consciousness. It was almost precisely the same time that Farrah Fawcett did, and a number of other beautiful young blonde women. Jessica did not want to be thought of in that light.
Lange was uncomfortable with the empty-headed blonde image De Laurentiis was creating for her. She had treated the role as a serious acting challenge, using her training as a mime to play opposite a non-existent 40-foot co-star.
You almost believe that that big, huge monkey was real, you know, the way she had so much conviction.
The highly publicized King Kong was finally released on December 17th, and the critical response was brutal. Jessica was incensed when many reviewers dismissed her as just another talentless model-turned-actress.
She was treated as this fluff, this bimbo, this person not to be taken seriously, so that it both launched a career and it also somehow branded her in a way that she would have to live down.
Jessica feared that her career might be over before it had begun. But the determined 27-year-old still believed in her own potential. She returned to New York to study her craft and to prove the critics wrong.
She immediately came back and applied herself right away. There was no victimization in her at all.
Although Lange's acting was not making any news, her romantic life kept her in the headlines. At one of Dino De Laurentiis' parties, Jessica had met famed Russian ballet dancer Mikhail Baryshnikov. Neither spoke the other's language, but they communicated well enough in French to hit it off, and soon they were deeply in love.
They had a real tempestuous relationship. I think a lot of fun, but, you know, they let out a lot of emotions. She would be so flabbergasted, just frustrated with Misha sometimes, because if they'd have fights or arguments, he would pretend he didn't understand anything she was saying, and it would be so annoying to her. But deep down, I think she found it very funny and clever on his part.
The couple was often kept apart by Baryshnikov's touring schedule, and Jessica found herself in a committed but non-exclusive relationship.
I think it was open to an extent to that it was the don't ask, don't tell kind of openness.